Today we have a creative chat that I'm really excited about. But before we get started, as a national group based across the land we call Australia, we would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. And I specifically would like to acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and they're the custodians of the land from where I'm speaking. And I pay respect to elders past and present of all First Nations people across the land. And today we have Brenton McKenna, who recently published Hairy Holes through Magabala Books, and James Foley, who recently published Secret Agent Mo Book 1, Goldfishfinger, through Scholastic. Welcome to the show, Brenton. Where are you speaking from today?
Hi, Agri. Najimingan, Naindilawal, Brenton McKenna. Thank you for having me and beautiful welcome to the country. Thank you, bud. I'm from in my hometown, Broome, land of the Yarra people. I'm specifically in my little studio in our backyard. So, and I think it's just under 30 degrees. So, which is a really nice, cool change for us today. Yeah, pretty nice.
That's cool. A nice, cool change. Wow. Completely different in Melbourne. It's like, whoa, today it's really hot because it's 23, And welcome to the show, James. Where are you speaking from today?
Kaya, everyone. I'm near Fremantle, which is Walula. I'm here on the lands of the Wajak Noongar people. So thanks for having us, Yogi. And good to see you, mate, Brenton. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, James. Good to see you too, bud. Really good to see you. Good to see your book, man. That's awesome.
And
awesome.
Yours, man. Good to see your hairy holes.
Yeah. The book, Hairy Holes, yes.
Exactly right.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
cheers.
So look, you both recently published your books, and I heard that you wanted to basically talk to each other. Maybe you had some questions for each other about your books. So I'll just leave you to it and I'll disappear.
No worries. Thanks, Yogi.
Thank you. Yeah.
Brenton, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, bud. Very good.
Good to see you, but I'm sitting in our little unit, which we're renovating at the moment. So there's like no furniture here behind these banners, and there's no chairs. So I'm literally sitting on a cardboard box that has our new toilet inside it. So I'm literally sitting on a toilet doing this conversation with you.
Oh, good man. You make it work. That looks like a proper.
That's so good. Wouldn't be the first time. Hey, Hairy Holes, book 1 in a new series, yeah?
Yeah.
You've written and illustrated it. Tell me about the title. How'd you choose the title?
It was a bit of it. It was supposed to be Gunbun. Gunbun's the name of what we call the hairy men, where I come from. Gunbun, Jaru when you go up north, and as you go different nations around Australia, they'll have a different name for it. And it was kind of if I was going to go with Gunbun, then there was it was really strict what I had to do. I wasn't really allowed to play around with the character. There was a lot of sort of cultural significance around them, and I wasn't sort of there was just and I really wanted to have fun with this. I really wanted to have fun. Not that I didn't have fun with Ubbies, but Ubbies was just such a such a big project, and I kind of wanted to do something that was fun for me, and I thought just wanted to do something that was really different, a lot smaller than Ubbies. Something that because there were a lot of jokes in Ubbies and a lot of little puns that I couldn't use in Ubbies Underdog. So
how come?
I'm not sure. It was that we were really worried, originally, one of the things was Ubby, when I first wrote the script for her, she spoke with broken English, a bit of Creole, and I think we're a bit worried that maybe the Kimberley and Broome kids would get it, but maybe the wider audience wouldn't. So that's where we went, I'll just keep it English, and we had a few jokes, and it was this might be funny for Kimberley kids, maybe not for the wider audience. So I was all right, well, we won't use that. And we won't use that, and we won't use that, and we won't use this character. And all of a sudden it was sort of and it turned out good, but it was just so mumuch material that I wasn't allowed to use, So I wasn't allowed to use it. I just couldn't use it. Sorry, that's a better way to put it. Hairy Hills was just that vehicle, that kind of that's pretty synonymous, pretty recognizable amongst no matter which Indigenous community I go to, everybody knows a Hairy Hill somewhere. It's just some overgrown sibling that doesn't shower and eats everyone's food. You know, a bit of a yeti at home or an ogre. So yeah, and and I've been asked that. Yeah, thanks for asking me that question too, James, because I have been asked it a few times. Why have you called it hairy holes? And people are a little bit suspicious. No, if you read the book, I'd explain exactly. They're literally holes with hair in them. You know, around the place. So
exactly right.
Yeah, we try to find something that you could Google safely, and nothing too terrible turns up. You know? But sorry, that's how we kind of came across, I guess, the name. But yeah,
it is a super catchy title. Like, you don't forget it once you hear it, which is great.
And it's been pretty like just that giggle. Like when I say it, you know, of course when I say it locally around, you know, it's pretty funny. But I've even used it like, you know, with non-Indigenous kids, and you know, on the Friday night drink and draw with those guys, and they were the same thing, and they was like, oh yeah, great title, and we don't know what it means, but you know, it sounds good. So I was like, all right, we'll keep it. Yeah,
I love it. And I wanted to ask too, like, because you said that there's these stories of hairy men in different Indigenous cultures around all over Australia. But how close does this go towards those stories? Like, is the idea of these tunnels that have hair in them, is that part of Aboriginal stories?
I made it's kind of weird. Like there are stories of this underground network of tunnels, but that was something I didn't want to try and avoid. And it was sort of stories that I'd heard growing up, but it was almost by coincidence, you know, that when I started talking and someone else asked me, is this anything to do with that that tunnel system out in like Mimby Caves or whatever? And I was like, oh, you know what? I didn't even think of that. Like you know, maybe there is some legitimacy to it, but no, it was just purely just fictional as a part of the story. Like it really, it as we've planned more books, and as we're getting through the series, you kind of see how more relevant those hairy holes actually become. So there were stories, of not so much tunnel systems, but like, you know, during the great droughts, during the great floods and everything, of creatures burrowing, or you know, cryptids burrowing, mimicking like what the wombats did and what the other marsupials did to sort of survive great bushfires and stuff. So that's definitely a story. Yeah, the actual tunnel network system, I purely made up, and it's just pure coincidence that it I think over in close to Arnhem Land or Northern Territory, there's almost a similar story. But the hairy holes are literally they're completely fictional, and they're sort of like those relatives that you know, out of, you know, the Sasquatch, the Yeti, the ogres, all those, they're all cool to hang out. They just don't like hanging out with these guys, and that's why we don't we're not familiar with them. Yeah.
I should ask you too, man, because like we're mates. And we've read each other's books because we've posted them to each other. But like, for anyone who hasn't read Hairy Holes, can you tell them what it's about if they're listening and they've never read it?
Yeah, sure. The Hairy Holes is basically about these two we call hairy holders. So they're like hairy people, Australian hairy people that are, or cryptids that live out in the outback. And as far as I know, they're the only two that are left. And yeah, you kind of get a glimpse into sort of their daily, and they're both brothers. Begley's the bigger one and probably the friendlier one. Redley's the shorter but older brother, and he's a bit of a jerk. And you know, you just get a glimpse into how they kind of coexist. And yeah, they're the sort of the status quo's kind of disrupted when they finally meet like a lost tourist, you know, a backpacker that's out in the middle of the bush. Yeah, who happens to be, you know, the creator of a social media platform. So he kind of gets to know them and tries to take them online, you know, and tries to just try and get them, because they believe they're the only two, where he's trying to tell them, no, you're not. Like, there's stories about hairy people all over the world, you know. You all up, and that's it. It kind of just spirals from there, but
And it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger too, because it hints that there's much more story to come, that there's lots going to happen next. When's the next book? Oh, of course, man. I mean, I'm doing the same, you know. When's the next one due out? Do you guys know yet?
We it's such a new platform. Like the way I did this versus the Ubby series is we literally turned everything on its head. So I would like even the formula, like a much smaller book, in black and white, everything worked really well. I would like to have the next one out by next year or sooner. You know, this way of working, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it. Magabala had a lot of fun editing and shooting questions. I guess we're not sort of stumbling in the dark as much. You know, this time, like, everyone was onto it. You know, there's a lot of new young people working at Magabala too who are getting into it. So I'd really like to have the next one out by next year or sooner. Yeah.
How long does it take you to make one of these? Because they're like, how many pages is it? So like 100?
Probably about, I think it's 80.
Yeah,
80. Yeah, which was, and even that, like, compared to like Arby's Underdogs book 1, that I mean, that whole process was 16 years, and the book 2, I don't know if you see my shelf, that one in the middle, that was probably the most the one that set the standard. So it took about, the artwork itself just took just over 2 years to do that, and that one's 107.
Wow.
Yeah, 106, and the last one. So the first book was like a lot of stumbling in the dark. The second one was really smooth, and we thought, if I'm going to do a graphic novel, I'd like to do it like this. And the fourth one was just the juggernaut. There was just so many hurdles, and that one turned out to be like 220, and it just killed everybody. Like, it just exhausted everyone, and it was worth. It was great, you know. It did really well overseas and stuff like that. But when I went overseas, to the US, and a lot of the feedback was like, we love Ubbies, but do you have anything else? And I was like, oh man, it's taken me 16 years just to do these 3. So they're the ones that kind of planted the idea of like, hey, we need more but smaller, you know. So and I spoke to my mentor Wolf, and he said the same thing. He was like, yeah man, it's like 60 to 80 pages is a magic number, you know. So I was like, oh, look, I'll try it. That's not really, I'm not used to telling stories, but you know, like, I'd like to make it a bit bigger than that. But no, it worked out really well, man. Like, it really, much happier with the way this one turned out. Like, it just, it was just smoother. I can't really put my finger on it at the moment, but it was just really nice. Nice to work with.
It's so much quicker to work in black and white than in color, for one thing, isn't it? Like, you don't have to worry about colors next to each other that might clash. It's just shades of gray, so it's easy.
Yeah, it really enjoyed using grayscale. Like, I don't know why I was against it for a long time. I was just like, nah, because the question with Ubbies was like, we should make Ubbies black and white, which maybe we should have, but I was like, nah, we're going to use broom colors and we're going to use all of this. And looking back, I was like, yeah, we could have done it in grayscale, you know.
Yeah.
But no.
But yeah, that's funny. You mentioned broom colors. I never sort of picked it as that, because I've read the whole Ubbies trilogy, and they totally are broom colors, aren't they? Just like the earth and the skies and everything. And
those color swatches I kind of took from photos. You know, I try to, and I used to get asked that, like, is that really the color of the water there? And I said, yeah.
It totally is. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. But it was just so much nicer to sort of not worry too much about the colors and just tones, just make sure that the tone and the grayscale was a little bit different. Yeah, this was a much nicer way to work.
But you're saying like how much more fun it was too. I could tell that reading it as soon as I got into it. Like that very first intro section where it's just like giving the history of the hairy people, and and then it builds up to 15 years ago, this kid. Oh, I guess that's the backpacker, isn't it? Who then the tourist who gets lost.
The guy, that's him at the end. He's the guy at the end.
Oh the guy. We don't know who he is. Okay, got it. Who's like searching for cryptids and stuff. Anyway, but the build up to like the appearance of the first hairy holder is like such good suspense. He like comes out of the cave, and all the wildlife are freaking out, and he's it looks like he's like got bad indigestion or something. Oh yeah, exactly right, like a Wolverine sort of pose. But then to like, good morning, that cracked me up so much, dude. I lost it. I went, what is going on with this? Brenton's having a laugh here. He's having a great time.
It was so funny. It was so fun to do that. It was really fun to see. And you know what else was good, James? Was with Ubbies, like I kind of knew what story I wanted to tell with that.
Yes.
I didn't take feedback. I was like, nah, I don't care. This was the kind of story where I gave it to my son and his mates and my daughter and his mates. It's like, tell me what you think. And I actually wanted to know what they thought. when I kind of when they flick through, when they giggled, I'd say, what are you like? What are you looking at? You know, and I'd try and smile with those. And it was really sort of that kind of feeling where I didn't have to be so headstrong about it. You know, this one was have fun, man, learn from people, find out what, you know, and take feedback better. You know, like I didn't take feedback in the past that well, whereas this one was like even the look of the characters, like just the original Begley characters are very sort of, I mean, I guess you could say anatomically closer to like the Patterson Gimli Bigfoot, the big one in the one that we all kind of looked at, where I thought, I don't want to make him look like a teddy bear, but I just want to make him look a little bit more approachable. You know, I want to make him, I guess, lanky and maybe slightly unfit with a bit of a belly. And you know, like that was. And if I had my sort of Ubbies cap on, I would have said, "No, make it like the picture." But because I didn't, I was like, "Yeah, I could do that. I could totally do that." You know, so it was just a bit more fun. Yeah.
What's Patterson Gimli in relation to Bigfoot? Is that a classic Bigfoot film?
That they're the famous one of the Bigfoot walking across the dry.
Oh yeah, got it. Yeah, and it's like all grainy and you can't really see it that clear.
And the shoulder a bit, and there's that, and there's some other photos, and they're quite menacing to look at, you know. And so I based the original Begley off that, just because, and it wasn't menacing to me because I love monsters and everything. But then I kind of thought, like my daughter sort of looked at this and she thought I had a like a hairy hole, what he'd look like as if he was an Ubbies, and I had a hairy hole, what he would look like if he was in sort of the Old Champ cartoon strips.
Yes, and
10 out of 10, everyone said we like that one. Like we like the one as if he was in a cartoony Old Champ comic strip, not so much the one in Ubbies, you know. So I was like, yeah, sure, I can. Let's roll with that. Let's have some fun with this guy. You know?
So that allowed you to kind of loosen up the style a bit then too.
Yeah.
And that's quicker and that's more fun in a way because you can be a bit more just quick on the pen, more spontaneous and stuff.
Exactly. I'm not sort of combing through like visual references, which I love doing. But this one, it just didn't. I kind of had a general idea of what I wanted and just ran with it. Yeah.
Did you chuck a little self-portrait in there at some point?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I saw that too. I was like, hang on, that's Brenton. He's playing himself out there. Let's go.
I just spotted that, bud.
Oh, yeah. But like, I love spotting like little Easter eggs and stuff there too, where you had like all the crazy things you had going on in the desert, where, you know, in the really remote parts of the desert where people don't realize what's going on. You had like all these little ogres and goblins and boxing kangaroos and UFOs and stuff. But then you had like the wrestling koalas. And I went, this is Brenton all over. This is like WrestleMania happening here.
Yes, you saw it, but I was like,
I saw the
didn't get it.
I saw the Hulk Hogan koala, and I recognize some of the other like face. Is the one who has like the Undertaker, or like who's the guy who had like the black hat?
Yeah.
Who was the guy who had the black paint and like zigzags on his face?
That was Ultimate Warrior. I was trying to get like
I recognize some of these guys from like ages. I was never into it, but classmates were into it, so I recognize the pictures.
Because that was the thing. Like I thought, I wanted to make it fun for my 12-year-old self too. Like if I was 12 again and with those, so I was trying to do that. But I showed my son some of that and I was like, do you recognize any of those? Because he's only 16. He's no. And he only picked up the I think I got a Randy Savage one there with glasses on.
I saw that one too. Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, man. Like Easter eggs. Like I couldn't do any of that really with Ubbies, maybe a little bit. This, man, I just like blah, blah. So I'm gonna, and to the point where Magabala was like, can you maybe just take these one out and just add them in the next one?
Yeah. But that's great though, isn't it? Having those Easter eggs means that like people at our age, when we've got kids, if we're reading it to our kids, then there's little jokes that we get that are keeping us interested,
absolutely.
Which is really important because a lot of these books are parents reading with their kids still, which is wonderful. I love too when you showed the hairy holes and all the tunnels. It's like a cross-section image, the sort of thing that we used to draw in school. We'd draw like these underground bases in the desert and we'd have all these tunnels and stuff. But you had all the classic cartoon things that you had like a T-Rex skull and you had the UFO and the buried treasure and stuff. And I can't find, it was cool. Like they're all the classic, things you would see. Oh, dude, this page here with the aliens and the flowers.
Yeah.
You got this is a little predator over here, right?
Yeah. That's
Let's
it.
go.
I was asking Magabala if that's okay, like, and like, Magabala were really cool. They were just kind of, yeah, man, just do it. And
It's different. It's different enough. Like it's not the same thing, but it's like a little reference, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely, little reference. Yeah.
I can't believe in a book called Hairy Holes, you've got an alien called the Uranus Blossom.
Yeah. That was incidental gameplay. I literally didn't plan that. Like, what do we call this thing? Like, blossom sounds like it sounds expensive. Sounds really galactic. Uranus.
It really does. Yeah.
And,
I would not like to come in touch with one of those guys.
But then I got told with those, like, they're like, oh, Uranus blossom, that's so funny, and I didn't see it. I was like, what? And then it clicked over, like me last minute. I was like, oh, and then I said to Rach, like, I know the book's already published, but is that okay? And everyone was like, we thought you did that on purpose. There's no.
No, that's excellent. I think too, the other thing that made me laugh the most was I think it's the most anatomically correct water buffaloes behind I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That page just cracked me up.
Yeah. We had a because I drew that and I gave that to Rach and the girls at Magabala, and I said, is this okay? Can I have this? Because it's part of the. And they said, look, as long as it's anatomically correct, it's fine. So it's like, okay, good. Sure.
Yeah, it's very confronting and hilarious. You sort of turn the page and you go, whoa, okay.
Yeah. My daughter, my eldest daughter, first time she saw the book and she hadn't read it whatsoever, and like she kind of just opened it, looked, and then closed it and said, I don't need to see any more. And I said, no, you do. You need to read the whole book. She's no, that's all I want to see. So. That's all she's seen to this day. But
maybe it's for the best that it wasn't in full color.
Good point. Just because, really good point. But man, I want to ask you about because this is awesome. This is. I did the same thing when I read this. I was like, this is James Foley. This is cool, man.
Cheers, man.
I really I love so much about it. Where are they? The one thing that really I just thought was just that 10% that I've never seen anywhere else. Sorry, bud.
That's all right. I had a lot of fun making it too. A lot of the stuff you were saying, man, about how it was like a quicker process, it was more loose and fun, and being in black and white, being like funny stuff you'd love that your 12-year-old stuff would love. It was exactly the same for me. I loved it.
Yeah, these guys.
Oh yeah, the judges.
Yeah, the judges.
Yeah, because
Dr. Nudi's like losing it because he's like, what? This whole that, and even just that, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but it made it work. Just that panel,
just a little pause. I should probably explain it for people who are only listening. Like, it's Secret Agent Mole. It's got Max Mole, Helena Hippo, and June Bug, and they are trainee spies, trainee secret agents. Which means they're trying to earn their secret agent licenses. And the bits that Brenton is pointing out in the book are where they've got this trainee mission, which they're going to hopefully complete successfully. And they're going up against Dr. Nude, who's a naked mole rat. And Dr. Nude gets really freaked out because there's just 3 random animals standing off with clipboards, ticking stuff off a list. And it turns out that they're judges from the agency.
Is it the official International League of Exterminating Terrorism?
Yes,
Toilet.
Yes, W is their boss. He's a walrus from the agency, and he's always trying to get a better name for the agency. So in every book, he's got a new suggestion, and the acronyms always spell ridiculous things.
It's going to be different next time. I love that.
Yeah. So in this one, it's the official International League Exterminating Terrorism, which spells toilet. Max Mole, agent of toilet, and then in the second one, we've got the Bureau Against Nasty and Negative Animals, which spells banana.
Oh, no.
So he keeps coming up with ridiculous stuff without realizing
it. Yeah.
It's been heaps of fun making. I kind of have been thinking about them as like an animated film in my head, and just trying to put it down on the page.
Yeah, just that.
You like that bit?
This whole car. That's exactly how it played through for me. I thought this is awesome. Really,
the car chase was fun because in that whole chapter, Helena and Max have been paralyzed by this toxin from a pufferfish called toxin, but they're in a moving car. And all of a sudden, Bug is the only one who's still conscious and able to move. And the whole chapter is silent. There's no dialogue. It's just Bug trying to figure out how to stop the car and save everyone. So it was fun having a silent chapter and trying to show the action without the characters talking about it, just as action. So it was tricky. It was the one that took the longest out of the whole book to do, but I think I'm probably proudest of that chapter.
Yeah, it paid off. Like I just that like this that I can see click 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 click.
Yeah,
click, the ejection seat button.
I think that's what I really like about graphic novels. Like when you've got space, because you can't do this in picture books, but when you've got space to do these little tiny moments, you can do little sight gags, and you can do little moments that rely on pauses and awkward silences and repetition, where you can't do stuff like that in a picture book. So
that's probably a better question I want to ask for you too, but was like, that's one thing I was burning. Like, have you found going like from picture books to graphic novels, like that, do you because this is awesome. Like I hope you have plans to do more of this, man. This is
man, I've already finished book 2.
There you go.
Book 2 comes out on 1st of September. It's called The Boar Identity. It's about a pig. And then book 3 will be out 1st of March next year. So I've written book 3, but I haven't started drawing it yet. And that one I think is going to be called Dr. Nude.
Dr. Nude.
Yeah, so he's like the overarching villain across these first 3 books.
Yeah, Dr. Nude. Excellent. No, I love that. I love that character already, man. Like I saw him, and I think it just got me that. And that was the one thing I kind of learned with exactly with. I've only done a handful of picture books, but my background being graphic novels, and just taking advantage of those moments, and even just that pause, that body language of him just sort of sitting there like stumped, judges, and I was like, that I was a big Dr. Nude fan straight away. I was like, yeah.
Oh, good. Excellent. We'll have to get some t-shirts made. I'm really hoping that no kids decide to dress up as Dr. Nude for book week, because I'm going to get some phone calls.
Man, that's going to be, yeah.
Well, some kids might dress up as a hairy hole. That'd be great.
Yeah. That's fine. Hairy holes and nude mole rats. Yeah. That's how you know you've made it, James. That's how you know you made something.
No, you're asking about like picture books and comics, graphic novels, but like what I think I've found is that a picture book to me is more like a short film, and a graphic novel is more like an episode of a TV show or like a film, because it's usually a serial thing. It's a continuing storyline. Maybe there's more space to tell the story. And it's not so compact and compressed like a picture book. Every single word, every single image has to be chosen so carefully because you got such limited space. So with like Stellarpent, this banner behind me, my picture book came out 2021 now, November 2021. That one took me a while to make. Full color illustrations, of course. It probably took about 7 years on and off to work on. And it was a lot of thought and a lot of research that went into it, and it had a deeper meaning for me as well. It's about discrimination and determination, but it's about feminism and equity and equality and all that sort of deeper stuff as well. Whereas like Secret Agent Mole, I wouldn't say it doesn't really have a moral. It's not amoral. It's not immoral. It's supposed to be just a fun adventure action thing. It's the book equivalent of a popcorn film, You're just supposed to just get stuck into it, want to keep turning the pages and have a really good laugh and get taken on a funny adventure. Which is fun to make, just like with Hairy Holes, I guess. Like when you're having fun making it, you can see it come out on the page.
That's what like with that's like it's great that you said it, because that's how we felt with Ubbies. It was almost like a movie length story with all 3 books, but with Hairy Holes, even Old Champ, it's kind of like it's like a TV series. I'm just doing the 1 episode, and but I somehow get to play around a bit more, I guess. Like you're saying with picture books, probably even more with picture, but not so much with graphic novel. But we did scrutinize like what exactly I wanted the reader to see, and what Magabala wanted it, and what they didn't, what I wanted, what I didn't. but this was heaps of fun. You know, Harry Holes. This was you. You must have had fun doing this, man. I love this.
Oh, I did. I did not even know I was going to make this story. I got an email from Scholastic saying, "Hey, have you got anything you'd like to pitch us? Do you want to work with us?" And I was like, "Oh, cool. Oh, I got nothing. I didn't even want to make another graphic novel because I'd made 4 before, but I think I enjoyed making those. It's just I was a bit burnt out at the time, and I sort of wanted a break from graphic novels because they're so labor intensive, as you know. But then I had this really good idea for these characters in Secret Agent Mole, and I thought, oh man, this could actually work. And I had more ideas and I knew not what to do with. So I thought, oh, okay, back to the drawing board then. I guess we're doing this. But I had to think of like easier ways of doing it, you know, because like yourself, I've done really long, intense graphic novel processes. I haven't done quite as much work as you have, man. Like you've done like decades of work on it. But I just didn't want to burn myself out.
Yeah.
How did you avoid that with Harry Holes? How did you make it easier for yourself?
It was kind of I follow with this one. There was a lot invested in Ubbies, not just from me but from my family. You know, having the main character like based on my nan, sort of honoring him. Like I kind of had that in the back of my head, and even I was just in not a bad space, sorry, but I was in a happy but struggling space. Like when I started writing Ubbies, I was only like 20, you know, and I just found out I was going to be a dad, you know, and and I was in Adelaide. I was away from home, and I didn't have I was a nightclub bouncer and working at night as a bouncer, working during the day as a security guard, and you know, it was just kind of, there was a lot of pressure on me that I put on myself, you know, which changed, and as the years went by, like. Yeah, there were just all kinds of different challenges and that, and I did burn out a lot. Like between 2002 2010, we had a lot of close calls where I said, no, I can't do this anymore. And and I just found myself sort of, it was like a really angry itch, was like, now pick up the pencil and keep going, you know. And then I'd say, no, I've had enough, you know. And then it just had just this sort of angry itch, and it was strange because when I worked with my mentor, he was like, it's not till now I realized that's really no way to make a graphic novel. Like that's not, I was kind of my motivations are differently. There's no way I'd make books like that now. They're great books, they're just big, you know. Whereas with Harry Holes, it was I was kind of been working on Old Champ a lot. You know, Old Champ's been really fun. That's been a whole different type of flair of drawing. You know, that's been really, really cool, you know.
Have you gone through like a different drawing process for it, or do you use the same process you always have? Or
just really just try to get as much motion capture as I could, you know, like really exaggerate a lot of stuff. Which meant kind of just a little bit less, you know, detail in the anatomy, but more motion captured stuff. Like when someone's getting hit, really show them going through the wall. You know, when someone's throwing that punch, really overextend to the point where that arm looks like it's coming out of the socket. You know, like
just exaggerate everything.
Exaggerate, and that was really fun. And it was like I'd never do that with like Ubbies Underdogs or past books that I worked on, but with Old Champ, it worked, you know, and with Harry Holes, it even works even more. So I just thought, this is so I should say, like with Ubbies Underdogs, like I'd work on it, and in on my little breaks, I'd doodle, like I'd have scrapbooks just full of like little doodles and stuff, and scribble. Then I'd go back to the real thing, and then I'd go back and doodle and scribble. Then I'd go back to the real thing, and on my breaks. Harry Holes was really born out of the scribbles and the doodles. Like I went through all those. And I'm like, the funny stuff, you know, the stuff that I didn't think anyone would see or look at, but it had some cool material in there. I thought, I'm gonna use that now, and make that the focus for a little while. So
I reckon that's where our best ideas come from, when we're making stuff that is just for fun, that we just have no reason to make other than that it's fun to do. Yeah, I love stories that come from that, because I just find that they're the most fun to make, and they turn out the best, really. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Totally agree with that. And like, I wasn't too sure if that's the way it should be, or should it be a sign from God? You know, like really
this you shall create this character. I really found out like Wolverine, apparently the whole character was between Frank Miller and I can't remember the other guy, but they said the character of Wolverine was born on a 4-hour road trip from Frank Miller had to do from New York to maybe somewhere in Canada.
Yeah.
And it was just this. I know it was another comic book. I can't remember who it was, but it was just Frank Miller and this other creator on a road trip, and they had 4 hours to kill. So they were just talking about something, spitballing ideas, and then this idea of like their little hairy or hairy cryptid, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, because he totally is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a little like that little angry. I don't know. They must have seen a Wolverine or something on the road, but. Yeah, and like you wouldn't think, like looking back now, that's one of the coolest X-Men of all time,
Yeah, and just comic book characters, film characters of all time, beloved.
Yeah, and he's like when you think about his origins, just kind of came out of a I've got it here somewhere.
Is that why they made him Canadian? Because they were on their way to Canada?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about. Yeah, he's Canadian. He's part of Alpha Flight and stuff. But in the this forward from Frank Miller, he was saying, it was a road trip, a 4-hour road trip from New York State to somewhere in Canada for a comic.
I had no idea Frank Miller was one of the co-creators because I've read Sin City and Dark Knight and all that stuff, of course.
He was the Sorry. I was just looking at that book. It was here somewhere.
For those who are just listening to the podcast, Brenton is looking at his enormous comic collection in his studio, which I'm very jealous of. There's so many books on the shelves there. You didn't show me this when I visited you, mate. Next time I'm up in Broome, actually, we might be coming up later this year with the family.
Yeah,
you got to show me this collection.
Absolutely. No, I definitely will. But it's just been a mess for so long. Like it's just been like I've just had book everywhere. I've got my grappling dummy still in here. I don't know if you can see him.
Right.
Yeah, so he's
for wrestling.
Yeah, I got my jiu-jitsu mats in here, and I just had books all over the place, and it was just really untidy. Like I'm always stepping on books and things. So we finally got a shelf to kind of, it's like a 4x4 shelf. So there's 16. Yeah, it's big enough. Basically, we couldn't find a shelf big enough in the past. But
it's amazing how much space comic collections take, isn't it? How they just grow and grow and grow. Mine is enormous. And having to move out of home to do the renovations, we had like 50, 60, 70 boxes of books in the house. It was unbelievable. We've been putting it off for years because we knew how hard it would be. I wanted to just come up with something you were saying about how like random stories can come out of just the most random events, like this 4-hour road trip. Secret Agent Mole came out of me having a chat with my mate Matt Cosgrove, who's a picture book writer and illustrator, and he's done some chapter books as well. He's worked with Scholastic before, and I called him up and I was like, hey man, like Scholastic's contacted me. What's it like to work for Scholastic? Give me the inside goss, what's going on, what are they looking for? And he gave me lots of time because he's just super nice bloke and a really good mate. And we spoke like almost an hour. I didn't think we would speak for that long. And then as we were like signing off, I just said to him, oh, cool, mate. Look, I'm really happy. Thanks for your insight into Scholastic. You can be my mole in the organization, hey? And then I went, I got to go. So it all just came out of that. And if we hadn't chatted for as long as we had, I might not have thought to say that.
That was my next question. Sorry, that's what I was getting at. I was like, so what's this? Secret Agent Mole, because it's. I've seen you in your Bond getup, and actually there's a striking resemblance.
Yeah. Look, I think when you see the character, if you go on my socials, I bought a white linen suit, so I dressed up as Max Mole. Max is a short, bald, smart aleck who wants to do the right thing, but is really enthusiastic, but is sometimes a little clumsy and makes mistakes and is far braver than he should be. And all those things are basically me, I think. It's basically me.
And I love it. This is great. But
then Helena's like me on a bad day. And Bug is like the inner child who's like untouched and pure. She's just like, she's super nice and super cute and lovely. So I think, yeah, all characters, I reckon, are all different facets of you when you're making a book. What do you reckon? Like, which one of the hairy holes is you, or are you both?
Probably it's strange. Their characters are. I really have to ask people, but I'll actually try to make their decisions. They're actually like everything they do based on stuff that I wouldn't usually do. Like
Sure.
so, like I tend to think I'm quite boring. I'm pretty mundane, but I thought, what's the extremes at both ends? Like, if I was super positive, how would I take this? If I was super negative, how would I take this? And
Yeah.
that's what I really wanted for these two characters. That they just kind of maybe that's why maybe they're extremes of me. Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, actually, yeah. Especially Redley, the older brother, who's there's so many days where I want to explode and just, the lady that cut me off at Woolies, with their trolley, and I was like, I was lining up here, like that's something Redley would do, whereas Begley would say, no, that's cool, But that's probably I think you're right, but I think we're all facets of, no matter how foreign I try to make them away from me, that I guess there's some part of us, but
so they're like the extremes of you. They're like the best side and the worst side of you, but turned up to 11.
Yeah. So we insane, but with like Junebug, I love the idea that she's speaking another language, or we can't, like, it's
I don't know, like maybe her voice is just so soft that we can't hear it properly. But there's kind of a history of having a small character who's non-verbal, isn't there? Like Dogmatics in Asterix comics, I think, is probably a big influence on it, and Snowy and Tintin, of course. And I had, like, in my previous comics with Fremantle Press with Sally Tinker, this inventor girl. She's got her baby brother Joe, who's basically non-verbal for the entire 4 books series as well. So it's just kind of fun to have a character who doesn't talk, because then they just rely on body language and facial expressions to show the reader how they're feeling, and it's just kind of fun to have a character like that,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not that Star Wars needs playing, but that whole sort of Han Solo Chewbacca relationship.
Yeah.
Can understand. Han Solo's the only one that can understand what he's saying.
And it doesn't matter that you can't hear them, because it's how the other character responds to them. It gives you the context you need to understand what was said. So
yes, that's where I got a lot of that. There was that sort of Han Solo Chewbacca relationship. I really liked that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. I did in some of the early drafts, so I had to make sure that Junebug, who's like their if you haven't read it, people who are listening, she's like their hacker and lockpicker, and she can do surveillance and bomb diffusing and all that tech stuff. She's their teeny weeny tech support. I had to make sure she wasn't too overpowered, because if she was, then she should probably be the main character, because she could basically do it all by herself, Being so small, it's great because she could actually just do everything. But she needs the others, because she's actually quite vulnerable, and bug spray a newspaper and she's out of the count, so she needs the others. So in the first drafts, when she's trying to stop the car from going over the end of this jetty in chapter 6, I actually had her way too overpowered. She pulled some tools out of her tool belt and flew into the engine and just disintegrated it. And then she went under the car and she dismantled the axles, and then the wheels fly off, and then the back of the car is just scraping on the jetty. It was super action packed, but it was just well, no, that's ridiculous. If she can do that, then why isn't she the main character? I was sad that I lost that. I've still got the draft, so I'll show them to kids when I do school talks, and I'll show you next time I see you, because it was
I'd love
it was heaps of fun to do. Yeah, but that's an alternate version, a parallel universe version of Bug.
Yeah, and I just want to the guys who probably can't see this really nice pic of Junebug, the ejector seat's working,
and end of chapter 6. Yeah, and Max and Helena are tarred and feathered and covered in porcupine spikes, and everything's gone to pot. Yes.
What was the other? Oh, that was the other thing too that I really liked. But you had here the just these little details, man.
Stupid little dad jokes in the corners. Yeah.
Star ducks. Yeah. No, man. That's what really. I think you can tell the creators love it. I can tell you love it when, you know, I guess Easter eggs are more than just
and there's lots of bad puns in here. We got an artist called Andy Warthog who's making paintings of Marilyn Monroe, and you know, there's like so many silly little jokes. Like I think whenever there was like a point where I wasn't sure what to do, I always just came back to, well, what is the silliest, most ridiculous thing that I could make happen next? So I was trying not to take any of it too seriously, but still make it a good story that still had legs, you know, still watertight plot. Yeah. But let's just make it so silly and funny that and it kids are just going to giggle.
Yeah, it worked, bud. That the sort of blank canvas, and then it ends up getting the toxin.
The pufferfish splattered on it. Yeah, I think that was a lot of fun. Doing that spread where he just like deflates like a balloon everywhere. I was so happy with how that turned out. Yeah. My son loses it laughing when we get to that part.
Yeah, that was your call, hey, but that was
Yeah. I mean, Scholastic were great. Like I did all the drafts up in InDesign, so I laid out all the text in the panels just to figure out the spacing of how much space everything needed, and then I sketched it all out in InDesign first with the pencil tool, which meant that I couldn't be real precious about the roughs at all. They had to be real spontaneous, and I think that traveled through to doing the final artwork. So then I did all the outlines in Procreate on an iPad, and then I did like all the shades of grey and stuff in Photoshop on a Cintiq. So and then of course Scholastic came through with their brilliant designer Hannah Jansen, who basically went through and took all the places that I'd added in sound effects and just picked the best fonts that you could ever have, and just improved it all, just elevated it to another level. And she just made sure everything was, you know, neat and tidy and going to be the best, most polished version it could be. And she did awesome work. Designers like that are unsung heroes because they make you look better than you are.
I know this. All those I know exactly what you mean, bud. And I really hope that they love it just as much. You know, that like their sort of flair comes at it.
I think so.
I give enough credit to Magabala for like their InDesign and Joe Hunt, who did a lot of the design stuff for me, you know, and she it's been really cool. So no, that whole thing, that's brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
Really cool.
So I think I haven't read this with my son yet, but I'm going to tonight, and I think he's going to love it. I will let you know what the feedback is. I reckon he's going to have a real giggle, have a good laugh. He's really into animals, so it's like he's probably going to be like going, "Oh, look, that's a mulga snake. Oh, I know that. And did you know that they grow to this long?" And he's like full of all these facts about animals. He's going to love all that sort of stuff. But then he's going to be like, "Are the hairy holes real? Are they real, Dad?" And I'll be like, you can ask my mate Brenton when we go to Broome.
Yeah, sure. We're going on this whole journey next time you come to Broome.
We'll find out.
Yeah, because I grew up with these stories about the hairy men, like everywhere we went, and they were always scary, never seen in a positive light. Like they were always, I don't know, like it was just and almost a point where we're not allowed to talk about them. You know, like when I was growing up, you weren't
really.
Yeah, if you said "gun bun," that means she's coming after you. You know, you're not allowed to say. But that's how scary it was. And then, I don't know. As I kind of grew up, and you know, you know, when I was in America, I even went to the Museum of Natural History, and you see that whole the whole sapien family tree, I guess you went Homo erectus and Neanderthals and that whole thing. And you know, we're the only ones that are still around. You know, that's what they're saying. And you know, the Australopithecus and the other one, they look like. I was like, that's your Sasquatch right there, you know. And yeah, of course they're real. And then I went to the Museum of Native American History, and like. So it's really strange because, you know, like, you know, in Hollywood, they really make Bigfoot and the Sasquatch out to be this mysterious cryptid that wanders around in the bush. And, you know, like, yes, whereas the First Nations people in America, they view him more like a great-grandfather. You know, they when they speak about the Sasquatch, they're saying, no, he's the one that taught our people how to make fire, how to take shelter from the rain. You know, the first songs, they came, how to drink water, you know.
Wow.
So it was a really the native First Nations Native American perspective on the Sasquatch is very different to how Hollywood's kind of portrayed him to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely relationship. It's kind of the stories they have about the hairy people where they were like these great ancestors that passed on their skills, So
isn't that amazing too?
Yeah.
Because like when you say that, like looking at the recreations of Australopithecus and Neanderthals and all that stuff, that they look like what we think the hairy men are like. But like indigenous cultures have got these unbroken lines of storytelling for so long, like tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like, could it actually be like, if you go back far enough, the story's just continued? Like,
stories continued. I truly think that's what it is. Like, whether or not Gunbun actually exists now, I don't know, but I dare say 10,000. Like, my ancestors probably had, a lot to do with them, many years ago. So, no, I think it'll be when your young fella comes up here, we'll go through that. We'll go through all those. Last time they were seen were around here. Like, apparently they live in the mangrove. So,
oh really?
Yeah, the mangrove people. So, and now and again you hear stories for like fishermen saying that they saw some giant wandering around the mangrove when they went fishing and blah blah blah. So and I guess it was those sort of stories in the back of my head, but it wasn't really until I did that US trip that I went over there, and it was sort of like, because they asked me, so how do you view hairy people? And I go, it's kind of not that friendly. Like, it's a little bit more hostile this way. Like, we're not allowed to go where they used to be. We're not even allowed to say their names. It's across the board. Like, what I found over there with the there's another one called the Hopoki, who's a shorter and bit of a trickster sort of thing, and they're the same thing. They're not allowed to say his name, because you say his name, he'll appear and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But still, they had this sort of teacher respect. He taught them what not to do. I never had that growing up, so I guess hairy holes is like, nah. I think they were dudes just like us. I think they were people just like us who had bad days as well. So that's kind of.
But those negative depictions though are so useful though, aren't they? Because like, I remember hearing, I'm not sure how widespread this is, but like the willy wagtail, the jitty jitty bird, for Noongar people, like that's got bad associations with it, because like kids would follow it away from the people, and then they get lost in the bush. So like, there's like a really good logical, practical aspect to that too. You want to warn the kids, don't follow that bird because you're going to get lost. But like, if you're saying like there's hairy people in the mangroves, that's really important, because you don't want kids to get lost in the mangroves where there's danger, do you? Like, there's crocs in the mangroves. Like,
there's all kinds of things like we have a similar one up here. Like, I think that the name is like jigglebird, but it's a big feather. It's actually like a big cockerel. And we see it now and again. It's a very strange looking bird. That can bend.
It's a real bird.
It's a real bird. It bends its feathers backwards as a part of its, I think, maybe a courting thing. But the problem was, it used to look like it had a broken wing, so kids would often chase after it, and bush and stuff. So there was this, jigglebird, or like devil bird. They say don't follow him, because he basically it can do this weird thing with its wings where it makes the feathers point the other way, and actually looks like it's got a broken wing.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a bird that you don't see too often around Broome anymore, but growing up we used to see it, and we literally thought, that bird is in cahoots with the devil. Like, do not even look at it, growing up, you find out no, they're an actual species of bird, and they've got a Latin name and everything, and that broken wing thing's actually like a courtship. They're trying to impress a female that's around the place somewhere. So
wow.
That was fun, sort of, like debunking all those ghost stories I heard as a kid and as a grown up. Like, it's awesome, but it takes away all that magic. And I'm like, oh man, maybe I wish I could go back to. I wish I didn't know this. I wish I didn't know.
But that's like same thing as like European stories of, don't go into the forest, the big bad wolf is there, and all that stuff. Like, it's really practical and important, isn't it? Like, it's to teach kids how to stay safe.
How to stay safe. Yeah, that's the whole vein of storytelling. Like, and it's across the board. Like, they over there. Like, I speak only because really that's really the only place I've been other than like Scotland, I think. With in Scotland they love everything, haggis, nothing really to be scared of. They love everything, yaks, giant yaks. But the story about hairy men or hairy people is kind of like universal, not just in Australia. Like, of course, even South America, Southeast, like just everywhere. And I can't. That was a lot of ammunition, a lot of fuel for me to go, man, I can do heaps of stuff with this, And I just felt like I'm being respectful. Because I had to show hairy holes to my, our elders, like my Yarra people, and to see what they think. And it was actually a lot easier received than it was. I went. Ubby's was fine. Ubby was really cool. There was a lot of. They just hadn't seen a graphic novel before, so I'm like, what are you doing? What? And when I finally got it, they were like, that's what you're doing, So yeah. With hairy holes and being a bit smaller, they come, what's he doing now? And then I'd show them, and they like, they read it and they were like, yeah, no, this is funny. They loved the title, so I thought, okay, good, okay, this is gonna work hopefully.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, cheers.
I'm working on a picture book at the moment with Frio, like another one that's got some of the hairy people of the world in it. You're making me realize that I should actually be really careful. If I'm using established cryptozoological creatures, I should be careful of the actual cultures that have importance for them and see what their importance is there. That make sure I'm not treading on any toes. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like, because mine, just from what I know about, from prior to going to the museum, and then leaving the museum, it was like a 180. I was like, man, like some of the stuff that we get told in Australia is actually not true, and it's actually quite similar to. There was a lot of similarities. So I can only imagine there'll still be a lot of similarities globally. Because even the word Bigfoot was quite offensive. Like it's
really.
Yeah, they don't like me. They didn't like me using the term. I kept saying Bigfoot, and they kept correcting me saying his proper name is Sasquatch. And I was and it just took me a little while to get. I was like, okay, that's actually like a frontier name, a frontier sort of nickname, I guess. But as I'll be going down that same track, but like I'd really like, and it's worth it, man. Like when you dig down, I think, and you find the roots of those stories, and when you culturally appropriate, like you just get so much more ammunition. You get so much more thing, and like I want to tell the story respectfully. It's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff. No, when are you doing that, bud? That sounds cool.
I'm working on the text at the moment.
Nice.
And again, a bit like Stellafant, like it's going to have a surface level of what you think it's about, but there's going to be like a deeper meaning underneath it. So it's going to be a story about it's kind of a fable. It kind of has the feel of like being narrated like a fairy tale or a fable. But it's going to be about just divisions in society that we always have, and treating some groups as the other, and that fear and that anger that can exist for generations and generations between two groups, and how sometimes it keeps going because no one even remembers how it even started properly. And how and how if some people want to keep those divisions, then there's this thing called the tolerance paradox. You ever heard of that?
No.
Tolerance paradox is this idea that a tolerant society shouldn't tolerate intolerance. And there's a weird paradox about that. Like, how could it not tolerate intolerance? But the fact is, if you start tolerating people who are intolerant, then it destroys your tolerant society. So a tolerant society should tolerate lots of things, but you can never tolerate intolerance because then it all falls apart. So it's about that, but it's you're told in a way as a fable about these crypto creatures who've existed on opposite sides of this canyon, throwing things at each other for many years, for many generations.
That's cool. That's no, I've never heard. But it makes in Australia, the sense of how do you tolerate intolerance, and if you do, it's it kind of spirals into intolerance again.
Yeah, exactly right. On that deep and meaningful note, I'm not sure how long Alia wants us to keep chatting, but maybe we should wind it up, and we can keep chatting when I come up to Broome later in the year.
Yeah, absolutely, bud. For sure. We gotta do that with you for a catch up, bud. So that'd be cool.
That sounds awesome, man. And I will my brother's living up there, so I'll find out when a good time is to come meet him. And then I'll let you know when we're coming up.
That'd be awesome, bud. Really cool.
Thanks for the chat.
No, thank you, bud, and congrats again. This is gold. This is
excellent.
Cool. Yeah,
and congrats on your hairy holes, man. Looking forward to seeing more.
We're looking forward to seeing some what's the book day naked
naked mole rat.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
No, thank you, guys, both of you. That was I was having so much fun here just listening to you guys. So that was an amazing chat. I absolutely loved that. So thank you for making time for this, and everyone get onto Secret Agent Mole and Harry Hall's, 2 amazing books. Yeah. You won't regret it, and read them with your kids.
Excellent. Do it.
Do that. Cheers, Greg. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Yogi.